Hey guys, so last week I promised that a video about writing a book series would be coming this week, and that video is going to go up next week. But I've been thinking about a lot of things over the last couple weeks, and honestly over the last several years. There are a lot of topics that I've had on my list to cover on this channel, and I've been bumping them back and telling myself, oh, but your channel is writing workshops. But it's not. My channel is writing and publishing. And I was just making excuses. I've been kind of playing it safe, and I don't really want to play it safe. So to preface this, I have 13 published novels with 3 different imprints at Penguin Random House with Scholastic, and I had a series that started with Disney Hyperion and is now at Little Brown Hachette. I have 4 more books coming out in 2020 and 2021 with Penguin and Scholastic, and a 5th that's currently in contract negotiations. All of these things that I'm about to say are things that I've said and heard in countless conversations with other authors and other editors and professionals in the traditional publishing industry. Last night, I finally got all my thoughts together, so here we go. Dear traditional publishing, traditions don't last forever. Here are several you might want to rethink if you want to keep up with the times. 1. Othering authors and books. Diversity is not a trend. Diversity is reality. For decades, the novels you published reflected a false reality. I'm glad you're finally realizing this, but this isn't the next vampires, and it's not something you can tick off your list to make your company look good. This is a mindset shift, and it has to be a permanent one. That means no more throwing all of your money behind one single book that tells, in your words, the immigrant story. No more passing on a great submission that happens to feature a visually impaired character or a non-binary character or a Filipino character because you already have a novel featuring a visually impaired character or a non-binary character or a Filipino character on your list. There is no one single experience. There are as many experiences as there are humans. 2. Lack of transparency. How do you come up with advances? Seriously, what is the formula? Because authors have been comparing notes, and either your formula has a serious flaw or there is no formula. And because I want to be really unequivocally clear here, when you give your successful, critically acclaimed Black authors with huge followings a fraction of the advance that you give your successful, critically acclaimed white authors with huge followings, you are profiting off of Black labor, and that is the root of this country's problems. Lip service and a day of action here or there is not going to cut it. Again, this is a mindset shift, and it has to be a permanent one. 3. Expecting authors to work without contract or pay. No self-respecting freelancer does all of the work on a project and turns it in without having signed a contract, yet you require all of your authors to do exactly that. Our first advance installment is not released until the contract is signed by both parties. If you truly need 6, 7, 8 months to finalize a contract, fine, but do not require that the author do a single hour's worth of work until that is done. Do you pay your editorial and marketing teams promptly? I really hope so why not do the same with your authors? I don't know if you maybe don't know this because you've never been in this position, but begging for money for work that you've already completed is demoralizing and infuriating. 4. Bumping publication dates and therefore pay. Obviously, things happen, and sometimes delaying a book's publication is inevitable. I get that. But let's be honest, you've been doing this for a while with the low priority authors and books on your list. The problem is that this directly affects when your author receives their next advance installments, because your contracts don't commit you to paying out on actual dates. Your contracts are worded so that payments are essentially doled out when you choose. When you're months late on giving an author her edit letter, or when you bump her publication date from March to October, or when you take 9 months to create her contract, you are stretching her total advance out over time, and you are literally lessening the value. Your author thought she was receiving $30,000 in 1 year, and now she's only receiving $15,000. That is a significant blow to her annual income, and thanks to your option clauses, which restrict authors from even trying to sell their future work until their projects with you are published, It's all but impossible for authors to build and sustain a career, even a part-time career, writing novels. 5, royalty statements we need to take a course to learn how to read. They're confusing, they're only sent out twice a year and often late, and they include little to no actual details or data about our sales. All of this is because you are still relying on an antiquated system. With the technology available today, there's no reason for this to still be such a mess. And while we're at it, direct deposit is the thing. A lot of your physical checks get lost in the mail. Now, I don't know if that's just an excuse or if you have a bad relationship with the postal service, but either way, it's a real problem. And speaking of problems, let's chat for a minute about that reserve against returns clause in your contracts. For aspiring authors out there who don't know, reserve against returns is basically a percentage of royalties publishers tuck away in case there's a massive return on the book from an account. It's a valid concern. They don't want to pay the author $10,000 for the copies shipped to an account if $6,000 worth of those copies are going to be shipped from the account back to the publisher because they didn't sell. The idea is that eventually the author will be paid this money for copies shipped out once it's clear that there aren't going to be any big returns. But these clauses are purposefully vaguely worded and publishers are unwilling to negotiate on them. The result is that publishers can and do hold on to this reserve for years, and the amount they can hang on to is pretty high, starting out at more than 30% of royalties earned. So even once an author has earned out her advance, which is really hard to do, by the way, it'll take them months to see any money and years before they actually are paid everything that is due to them. So this note is for all of you publishing houses who aren't one of the big 5, but you're pretty big, and you tell your authors that one of the advantages of your comparatively small advances is that they'll earn out faster and get their royalties sooner. If you're going to sit on those royalties for years, then this is not an advantage you should be touting. Most authors would rather take the giant advances up front. To all publishing houses, if your authors are earning royalties, pay them. 6, giving up on your authors when their first book isn't an instant New York Times best-selling Pulitzer-winning hit with a movie in the works, because again, let's be honest, that's what it takes to be considered worth hanging on to in your eyes now, right? You waste millions of dollars in obscene advances and marketing campaigns on one single book per season, hoping that it will take off. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But either way, that doesn't seem like a great way to run a business. It's not just harmful to your authors, it's harmful to your team. Because when any company is constantly struggling to keep its head above water financially, they are not prepared when disaster strikes. 7, putting so much stock into that New York Times list anyway. We all know it's not real, so why are you still flapping your wings about it? Let's move on. 8, putting the burden of marketing and publicity on the author. Personal social media accounts are no replacement for the support of a publishing house. We can tweet until we're blue in the face and self-promote like nobody's business on Facebook, but we all know that is not going to move the needle on our sales in any meaningful way. And the thing is, we're following your social media accounts with your significant number of followers, and you're using them to promote the same handful of authors that you send to every festival and every conference and all the book tours. I gotta tell you, bookstagrammers don't need to see the same title photographed 17 different ways. Why not show them 17 different books? Obviously, you can't send all of your authors on book tour to every festival or conference. I get that. But can you at least spare them a tweet on their release day? Because you don't. You focus only on your lead titles, and your mid-list authors are following you. They see it. You acquired a book, throw it a social media post or two. It's free and it takes like 5 seconds. 9, asking or worse, requiring your authors to work for free. I'm talking about book tours, and more specifically for kid-lit authors, school visit tours. School visits are a ton of work. They require a lot of preparation beforehand. And you already know this, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. All of these tours, unless the author is already a pretty big bestseller, they don't result in a lot of actual sales. So when you try to talk us into doing a tour for free because there's going to be indirect compensation in the form of book sales, we know that's BS. Also, and again, you know this already, but the actual compensation an author would earn is like maybe a little over $1 for every book sold. So we're talking about 2 weeks of intense hard work amounting to maybe, if we're lucky, dinner for two at Applebee's. Do you know who can afford to take 2 weeks away from their professional and personal responsibilities to go on a book tour or a school visit tour and speak and give educational presentations that require a ton of work beforehand for no money? Do you know who can afford to write books and revise books and make all of their deadlines before they even have a contract that promises pay? Do you know who can afford to keep paying their bills when you bump their publication date and with it half the income they thought they had coming in that year? A very privileged person. So do not tell the public that you are all about diversity when all of your systems from acquisitions through publicity are designed so that only someone with a trust fund or a wealthy spouse can fully participate and reap the benefits. Without authors, all of the authors, you would not exist. Yet you pour all of your money into supporting the careers of only a fraction of the authors on your list. For a supposedly liberal progressive industry, you are remarkably pro 1%. And that brings me to the last tradition that needs to go. 10, paying the majority of your staff a salary that makes it incredibly difficult to live in the city in which you are located. Unless, of course, they have other sources of income in addition to the full-time job they already hold with you. Again, this only highlights your hypocrisy when you talk about how you're all about diversity. How has working remotely been going for you the last few months? Is it something you might be able to continue to do in the future, at least on a partial basis? Next time you need to fill a vacant position on your editorial team, your marketing team, your sales team, your publicity team, can you widen your search pool and include qualified applicants from other cities and other states? You say you're all about own voices, but will you actually bring underrepresented voices onto your editorial, marketing, sales, and publicity teams now that 2020 has forced you to prove it's possible? Because that is actually where change is going to start. And change is here whether you like it or not. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you on Friday with another video. Bye.